Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is the new game released by Sandfall Interactive as their first big game and created with the intent of being a love letter to RPGs old and new, Western and Japanese. And also because the devs got sick of making the same slop every year for Ubisoft. Okay, only some of the devs actually worked at Ubisoft, but the story's funnier that way. Anyways, I've been playing through it, and I've loved it. And it was around the end of the first major boss fight that I decided I wanted to make a video for this game. But it's also kinda long, and unlike my other videos, this is mostly going to be a blind run. And while I do ultimately plan to cover the game in full, I will be splitting this into multiple parts. But since the game has a 3-act structure, I think that makes things relatively easy. So, let's just dive on into it, shall we? The game begins and you get to choose some settings like difficulty, tutorials, and to have accessories in cutscenes. The game warns you it may break immersion, but hey, it'll be funnier that way. And as the cutscene begins to load in, we see a giant clock of doom, but we also see that we're in some sort of dark fantasy setting. Wait, no, that's just France. The scene begins with our protagonist, Robert Pattinson, I mean Gustav, throwing a rock towards the giant clock of doom. Wait, no, I'm not covering Xenoblade X yet. Contemplating whether or not he should bring flowers, where we have a bit of a dark exchange with the young girl, Maëlle. And during said dark exchange, the word gamage is frequently mentioned, and the prologue begins for real. Apparently, some sort of big skincare routine that happens to people of a certain age. I'm sure it'll probably be fine. The game also takes this chance to show that it has some really nice art direction, and I was screwing around with my settings for a little while trying to find the ideal balance here. Why is there a piano on the roof here? I need answers, Sandfall. After some basic moving and grooving, we're thrown into our tutorial battle where the game trains us on the basics of attacking and using skills to do damage to enemies. In this game, attack is useful because of bonus effects and because it's an easy way to regenerate some AP, which allows you to use your skills more often. I would try to make a comparison for this mechanic, but the only other game that really comes to mind is the Tales of games. Mainly Graces and Berseria, but also kind of Arise, and they're also very different combat styles, as those games are full action RPGs while these are turn-based. However, you aren't just doing attacks, as your skills have action commands for you to input, generally pressing A. But we don't stop there, as enemies will attack you as well, with moves of their own, and there's two ways to not get wrecked by them. Either dodge the attack, or parry the attack. Dodging has a more generous window, but unless equipped with special gear, generally it provides less benefits, but it's a low risk. Meanwhile, parrying an attack is generally going to be tighter timing wise, but not only does it build up AP for every time you get a parry off, it will also allow you to counter attack an enemy if you parry every hit in that combo. What this honestly reminds me of is Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, with blocking being the safe and easy method, while super guarding is the much tighter method, but it also provides larger benefits. Or, I guess, Mario and Luigi games as well, with their own sort of ways you interact with the attacks. Either way, I'm glad I just beat Sekiro, because I'm gonna suck regardless, but I may as well suck less.
You won. Now, don't you feel better? I see your smile. Alright, now, Let's go find Sophie. I saw her near the red and white tree.
Yeah.
After descending from the roof, Gustav is able to meet with Sophie and give her a flower, assuming you remember to bring it with you, where they agree to spend the day together.
Still can't finish your sentences, can you?
Yep. That hasn't changed.
We're now put in control of Sophie, and the game gives you the ability to swap between playable characters at will in the overworld. No crazy screen or long transition here, just right click the stick and it's instant, just like my favorite game, Ys 8. I will be obnoxious with this and spam this throughout the game. I didn't do it here, but I also learned later you can actually interact with the trash cans for unique bits of dialogue, which is kind of neat. Meanwhile, Gustav's busy getting jiggy with it. In the main plaza, you can run around and speak with some of the people. Some of them have unique dialogue, such as Cyril, needing help figuring out the next article for tomorrow's paper. I chose Expedition 33 since it name drops the game and sounds hopeful, while the other ones sound pretty grim, or funny at best. Most of these little interactions don't really do much other than add a bit of character to the world, but they are pretty interesting. There is one interaction that does matter, however.
Oh, Sophie. What a lovely smell.
Thank you, Richard.
I could recognize it from miles away. It's good you're here, Sophie. I have a favor to ask of you.
Anything for my beloved sewing teacher?
We are of the same cohort. Today is my gommage. And my son and I had a fight last night. He said he wants to join the expedition. He wants to waste the last year of his life. I didn't want that for him. I used to think it was a bad choice. Today, I no longer do. I know I made a mistake. I tried to impose my views on him when he is much braver than I will ever be. So I sewed a special uniform for him. That's my last gift. Could you bring it to him?
Of course. I'll bring it to Jules.
He won't join the gommage ceremony, but he will be at the Expedition Festival tonight for sure. Oh, but you...
Don't worry. I'll ask Gustav.
Gustav, are you back together?
For this moment. Maybe.
I'm glad. He's a good person.
Yes. He is.
Thanks to both of you. And see you.
See you.
I didn't realize until looking back through the footage, but we actually get an early look at Lune playing the guitar for the people here. This is kind of one of those details you're more likely to catch on during your second playthrough.
Sometimes I feel sorry for her.
Who? The paintress?
Look at her. She looks sad. Maybe she's a prisoner too. Stuck in the same cycle with us. Silly, huh?
Only you could choose empathy at a moment like this.
It's one of the few choices I can make.
I couldn't do it.
It's okay. You don't have to.
Oh, hi, Sophie.
Oh, Mael. I didn't expect to see you here.
I'm volunteering to help guide children who are losing their parents to the orphanage. Those who weren't registered for foster families.
How kind of you.
I guess I can relate.
Take care during the expedition. Gustav told me a lot of wonderful things about you.
About you too. I always told him you two should never have broken up.
Look at these orphans. That's where we disagreed. But I have hope that you and Gustav will change things. So no one has to go through this impossible choice again.
Yeah. Let's hope we will.
See you.
In the next life.
Yeah, gotta be honest, this is my first time really tackling such a big story-driven game, so I'm not quite sure how much I should do with the cutscenes, but I feel like some of them are better left without me ad-libbing or abridging anything and just let them play out for themselves. While others, well, I'll try to trim down to make it a bit more digestible because they'd be 30 minutes long. Anyways, to cut away from that serious bit, if you explore the main plaza, you can run around and speak with some people, have some unique dialogue and all that good stuff. But another interesting thing you can do is find this goofy looking dude near the harbor and surprise surprise, you're gonna get thrown into a mini boss fight against the Mime. This guy is bizarre, to put it lightly, using his powers of illusions in order to create things like walls that buff his defenses, and the only way to really do reliable damage is to either parry his attacks and counter, or use overcharge on him. And he also has the ability to inflict skill seal, which is kind of tough for the second battle in the entire game. And Mael was a tutorial that I don't think could lose if you tried. Thankfully, once his stagger gauge gets high enough, you can use overcharge on him to instantly break any and all defenses he may have, leaving him vulnerable and stunned, and at this point his crazy high defenses will be gone, so he's no longer taking like 98% reduced damage, and from there it's pretty easy just to finish him off. And for doing so, you actually get an achievement if you're an achievement hunter. I'm not, but I figured it's worth mentioning. When you've had your fun running around the city and are ready to advance the story, head to the pier and get ready to close out the daytime portion of the prologue. Reaching the harbor, we get one last lighthearted scene where Gustav's apprentices give him a gift as we realize Sophie was working on getting a uniform set up for him so he'd be ready for the expedition. And now we learn what happens when the Countdown of Doom changes. I was thinking this was going to be some sort of Final Fantasy X Visions of Mana-esque thing, but no, it's Evangelion. And that's when I realized this isn't the skincare gamage, this means to erase. And with a few strokes of the paintress's wrist, everyone that's 33 years old begins to fade away into nothing, with probably the creepiest of the bunch being Richard, as you see his skeleton. But ultimately, every year, this city goes quieter and quieter, and now we know exactly why. Well, damn. Consider me both invested and intrigued. This game has me asking questions in a way I haven't since I first played Ender Lilies. After that end of Evangelion-ass cutscene, Gustav gets comforted by his friends Lucian and Catherine, and after promising a drink, we get a chance to run around and play a few mini-games and speak with our companions to hear their thoughts about the upcoming journey, as the expedition will begin the next morning. This includes Ciel, who's actually more nervous about crossing the ocean than anything else, so she's trying to get hammered so she doesn't have to be sober while they're over the sea. Then there's Tom, who teaches you about pictos, kinds of accessories you can equip in this game, and this is where you can make use of the tokens you'll get in order to get little bonus items from his shop and the other two, as they all give you little nice things that are good to have. Antoine will have you play a little trivia game that's also a disguised piece of world building. Clever. Completing his minigame gets you a token, and you'll need 3 tokens to do everything here at the party. You're given 1 for free, but you have to earn the other 2. Thankfully, this minigame may as well be free because you get unlimited tries on it, so as long as you don't have the memory of a goldfish, you should be good. We can speak with Alan, who mentions how his daughter is currently pissed off at him, and he doesn't really blame her. Lune, who we actually saw playing the guitar earlier, is here, and she's currently mapping out the path of Expedition 0, which is known to be the only expedition to actually return with any survivors. And now for the important ones. If you speak with the kids, Alexander and his friends will provide you with a journal, giving Gustav a side quest to write about his adventure as he goes. We're gonna be doing this. And, something of note, if you spoke with Richard during the part where you played as Sophie, you can actually give his uniform to his son Jules. Afterwards, he'll give you the uniform, and that means it's a free cosmetic change for Gustav, so if you want to go around wearing a red uniform instead of a black one, you can. And I probably will later.
Glass of wine? Or a hug?
Keep your sweat to yourself.
Bring Gustav a glass of wine.
Who exactly are you talking to? They cut servers from the budget years ago.
Ah, the ultimate indignity. A farewell party where we serve ourselves. There's a metaphor in there somewhere.
I'm betting you've got another bottle stashed in your coat somewhere. You gonna share?
You wound me. But yes, in fact, I do have it. Always be prepared. Or was it? Always bring backup. Same difference.
Right.
And I am prepared. Prepared to live. And prepared to die.
You're such an idiot.
Hey. We've got your Lumina converter, yeah? I believe. I'm ready for my Lumina.
Yeah, well, we've only tested it here. Who knows what we'll meet on the main continent? We'll need more field testing once we land.
Don't worry, buddy. I've got you covered.
Great. Thanks, buddy.
Alright, now go speak with Mael to progress the plot.
I knew I'd find you. Having second thoughts about the expedition?
Please. I'm more ready to go than you are.
Yeah, I know. Look, I know we've been over this, but as your guardian, I need to say this one more time. The rest of us only have a year left, but you've got 9 good years before your gommage. You don't need to leave yet. It's a lot to risk.
1 year out there is better than 9 years in here.
I know you think that, but...
If anyone should stay, it's you. You have friends and family who want you here.
So do you.
No, I don't.
Emma thinks of you as family.
Lumia is not my home. Not the way it is for you. Besides, this way I can keep an eye on you for Emma.
Right. Because she needs eyes everywhere.
Shush. You're lucky you have a sister who cares.
Doubly lucky. Since now I have 2.
Alright, enough chit-chat. Come on, old man, let's have a duel.
Old man.
You're pretty much the oldest man in Louisiana now, no? Come on. This time, I'm not messing around.
Now we have ourselves another battle against Mael. You're not actually required to win this fight, but you'll want to do so to get the 3rd and final token, so now everything you learned from the tutorial battle, and possibly the mime fight, you want to make use of here. It can be a tough fight, especially if you used up your one and only potion on the mime. That doesn't make things any easier. But you're not completely hopeless. You can parry all of her attacks, you can dodge all of her attacks. It's just going to require a bit of tight timing, and I will recommend, for a lot of these attacks, it's better to actually listen for the sound cue than just focus on the animation, because some enemies will start to get tricky with those. But a cool bonus is Gustav has a gun, meaning you can always choose when you're getting tired of this turn-based BS and just pull out the Glock. Oh, the gun is actually a significant part of combat later on, but for now, it's mostly just there for a bit of cheeky damage if you want to go for it and you got the extra AP lying around.
Not bad for the oldest man in Lumiere, eh?
Congratulations, you beat a teenager. Take this token as your well-deserved prize.
If you win, you get a token. If you lose, you get nothing, but regardless of your choice, Emma will arrive on the scene, and to progress the plot, we need to speak with her.
You and I both know the political complexities that necessitate the expedition. It's vital for morale, but it's a bloodless guillotine is what it is.
That line pretty much sums up this entire cutscene of the Bloodless Guillotine. The expeditions are a mandatory suicide mission to head off to the unknown for the slight hope to not even succeed but make just a little bit of progress for those who come after. And so, our expedition team sails off towards the giant countdown of doom. I'm sure we've got at least a few story beats before something goes horribly wrong. You know what? I'm just gonna let this cutscene speak for itself. No need for me to ad-lib anything.
Get ready. You're old. How did you survive the Gommage? Which expedition are you from? Fall back! We need to go! He's not following. Putain! What the fuck? Who the fuck was that?
Merde! What do we do now?
Regroup at the rally point. The Indigo Tree.
Come on! Move! Fucking snap out!
Well, that sure as hell escalated quickly. Now, sorry to break the tension and the dark tone of everything, but you may have noticed there's a waterfall that's behind us. So, yeah, turn around and go pick it up because, hey, inside the waterfall there's a little secret. That's how you know it's a good game. At this point, we play as Gustav, banged up and delirious, but you get the chance to take in how pretty this game's art direction really is. Sure, it's not the most cutting-edge graphics since it's a AA game, but quite frankly, we peaked about 10 years ago, and now we're just getting diminishing returns. You don't really need to see the detailed pores on a horse's ball sack for a game to have good graphics, plus this allows the game to be only about 40 gigabytes instead of being well over 100. After we run along the path for a while, we get dragged into our first real battle of the game, and unlike the sparring match with Mael or the joke match with the mime, these fights are for keeps as death is now final. Thankfully, we have the power of the Second Amendment, and a well-placed shot to the glowy part will do a fuck ton of damage to the enemies. After the battle's over, we're tasked to keep going, and honestly, I think the thing that makes this part of the game so effective for me is that Gustav doesn't talk. He doesn't say a single line, no witty retorts, no swearing, no, I can't believe that happened. He just lets you sit with the reality that a lot of people died, and we're just kind of holding out a faint hope that we'll find some survivors. Sadly, that isn't the case, as heading into the cave, you'll find a massive pile of bodies with Catherine's impaled corpse sitting on top of the pile, and that's when he realizes all is hopeless, so Gustav prepares to take his own life.
You do that, we both die. Hey. Fucking hell. Wake up, Gustav.
Thankfully, Lune is here to save Gustav from making the ultimate mistake and save the video from demonetization. After that point, we must prepare as the game throws us into another required battle, and this foe introduces us to fighting with a party as well as enemies having party nukes, and requiring you to counter together in order to deal massive damage against the foe, but if you miss timing, then everyone's gonna get hit, so it's very high risk, very high reward attacks. Now, with Lune in tow, as you head outside, you'll come across a flag that acts as a checkpoint of sorts where you can manually save your game, as well as level up and learn new skills, as well as warp back to this place for later. These will also act as waypoints to show where expeditions of the past have been, and give you a bit more world building. Really, think of these like your bonfires from Dark Souls. I'll try to keep the Dark Souls comparisons to a minimum. Exploring along this path, the game is understandably pretty linear early on, as they don't want the player stumbling around and getting too lost, but if you keep an eye out, you might find a few extra goodies here and there, and this area does look super nice, so it's worth looking around a little bit. Though be careful when exploring, as you'll very quickly be greeted by these less than friendly flying enemies that I suck at dealing with. These little shitheads are super evasive to most normal attacks and skills, but are weak to getting shot in the face, so consider showing them the power of the Second Amendment, and whatever the heck Lune's magic spell bullet thing is supposed to be. And when exploring, you'll probably see this Groot-looking jerk chilling out, not going anywhere, and if you challenge him, he'll reveal himself to be an optional boss fight, the Chromatic Lancelier. This guy can be tough because one hit will more than likely spell the end of your character. This guy also has a ton of HP at this point in the game, so the best ways to damage him are to shoot him in the head and inflict burn on him because he gets 2 actions every turn, meaning he takes more burn damage. It can be a tough fight, but if you win, you'll get yourself a Pictos that boosts your base attack by 50%, which is pretty darn nice in a game where regular attacks are actually useful. Continuing on, the force begins to turn from green to blue, and we'll come across another Nevron. However, this one doesn't want to attack us, and instead we actually will find a journal from Expedition 81, allowing us to learn about their path. And we also learned that this Nevron wants you to find his light, so you can look around the blue forest area until you find some resin, and preferably find yourself other useful items such as the revival tent as well, which will increase your max number of revival potions. Always useful to have. Well, this area looks suspiciously boss arena shaped. I'm sure it's fine.
Leo!
Fuck. It's big. Fall back!
Putain de merde.
While Mael may have had a health bar, Avake is the first true boss fight of the game that you'll come across. And this is also the first opponent in the game to make use of shields to protect himself, which means a higher number of hits is more important than one massive hit while dealing with enemies that have shields up. There will be ways to get around these later, but for now we just kind of whack at it. Now as for attacks, Avex likes to keep things pretty basic actually, having a melee combo as well as having the ability to cast magic with little earth spires that shoot out towards you in a rhythm for you to dodge. Or you could probably parry them too, but I didn't really think to do that at the time, as I still wasn't really down with the whole parrying thing yet. At 2/3 HP, Avake will summon 2 enemies to join him in battle, adding on to the danger of the fight, though thankfully you can just shoot them in the face to take out a lot of their HP. Now, this can be a somewhat tough fight, as it's a boss making use of different abilities, but if you make use of things like burn and overcharge, you can go a pretty long way against your foe here. Then, when the boss gets to low HP, Avake will throw up a whopping 8 shields you must break in order to actually damage the boss, and at this point Avake will enter its third phase where he not only attacks but also begins charging up an extremely powerful kamikaze attack. Sadly, at this point the core is no longer really an exploitable weak spot, at least as far as I could tell, but no matter how hard you hit it, this boss will not die, because you're just delaying the inevitable until the cutscene plays where the game provides you a cinematic kill on the boss, and now, well, we can go check the meeting camp once the boss is dead. After you've slain the boss, feel free to give the resin you found in the area to Jar in order to get his reward. Otherwise, when you're ready to continue, head on out past the Avake boss arena and into the next area. Well, okay, maybe not quite new area, actually takes us out to the world map. Usually if you run around here you can find a few items strewn about in the world map, and sometimes you'll find optional battles and maybe even optional bosses you can take on in order to strengthen your gear and get some extra levels, because those optional bosses and a lot of these optional battles often drop something worthwhile, so they can be worth your time to take out. Eventually, after wandering around for a while, you'll be prompted to make camp, and when at camp, you'll be able to have cutscenes where you can spend time with your party members to gain access to additional features as the game progresses, but as always, we don the Expedition banner, and this provides us a great chance to manually save and increase our stats wherever you are on the world map whenever you need to. It can be useful, so keep it in mind for later, especially when taking on some of the overworld optional bosses.
What? No, we have a mission!
Oh, fuck the mission! Fuck the mission, Lune!
Sometimes in the overworld you'll see these little glyph looking things, activate them and they give you shortcuts that you can use to get back to older areas later on in the game. Pretty useful, and they help the world feel a little bit more interconnected despite its crazy gravity-defying craziness. Now, say hello to the Flying Waters, also known as the obligatory water area of the game, and holy fucksticks, Batman, this place is pretty. It's very much like this coral reef looking locale. Honestly, this is one of the nicest looking areas I've seen in any video game. I'm kind of a sucker for those under the sea sort of aesthetics, where you don't have to deal with like drowning and all that nonsense. You just kind of get to see the pretty art style of things. Going around this area, you'll come across a new mechanic, something known as a paint cage. These are interesting little puzzles for you to find and shoot the 3 targets usually within the same room in order to get a really nice item such as a chroma elixir or some other sort of increase to your healing and restocking capacity. It's another full party heal as well, so it's always nice to have. It was also here that I learned that damage over time can not only kill you, but it can also kill your enemies. This ain't some pansy little poison. Burn is something that you do need to respect, as it will be useful throughout the entire game. Another interesting quirk here is that the flying enemies in this area have these little sea mines, which make them potentially very dangerous, but as you can probably guess, that's also their weak spot, so you can dispatch them pretty easily without too much issue if you shoot the mine, as that will cause every enemy on their side of the field to take a ton of damage and detonate the mine in the process. And then after that, just a simple shot to the head will pretty much be guaranteed to bring them out. It's a pretty easy way to get some easy experience, honestly. After progressing a bit further, you'll come across a hut chilling out in the middle of the Flying Waters, and a rest point that calls the place Noko's Hut. But there's something not quite right about it, so I guess we should get ready for whatever lies on the inside. Now we need to choose to examine the door at Noko's hut, and then the game will suddenly turn into a From Software DLC.
Where are we? This is...
Welcome to the Manor, a very large area filled with a bunch of locked doors that we can't do anything with. As you can imagine, we'll be returning here very often throughout the game, but right now, none of the doors can be opened, save for a singular door that is already open and available to access. But first, we have a piano we can interact with. Though, you just press the X button and things happen, notes get played, I don't quite get it. You can try to leave if you want, but you're not going to make any progress until you finish up in the manor, so the room you want to check is actually in the back on the top right side of the floor.
Mael?
Gustav? Are you real? Well, you sure smell real enough.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I thought that you... On the beach, I saw you and I couldn't, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have, I should have come for you, and
It's okay. It's okay.
I was worried.
Made it.
How did you end up here?
I don't know. It's all a blur. I remember everyone at the beach. Then I woke up here. With him. He's been helping me a lot. He reinforced all my pictos.
What is he?
I'm not sure. He doesn't really talk.
The chroma around him. It's quite different from the Nevrons.
Honestly, that scene is just really nice. Anyways, we reunite with Mael, but as it seems, she's not alone, as this non-Euclidean entity is also here with us, and he just looks at us a bit oddly before leaving. He's a man of few words, I guess, but he's pretty friendly if nothing else, and he seems he wants to help. And with that, Mael has now joined the party. She may only be level 5, but her stats are actually fairly comparable to Gustav and Lune's, while you still have 15 upgrade points you can go ahead and assign. She's really good and will definitely be getting a lot of use throughout the game.
Again. We just trained earlier. Alright. But this time I have backup.
Before you can properly leave, the curator insists upon training with Mael to make sure she's strong enough to survive out there, and now we have ourselves another boss fight. The curator is kind of a tutorial battle, and kind of not. He introduces to you the concept of attacks that must be dodged by jumping instead of a backstep or a parry. They will always have a unique flash on the weapon, and if jumped, you are given a free counterattack opportunity on the boss. The timing to dodge is actually a lot more generous than other attacks in the game, but not every boss has this as just a one-off attack. More often than not, they will be incorporated as part of the combos that you need to keep in mind. And oh boy, when we get to those sorts of fights, it's gonna be an event.
That was fun, but I think we've had enough training today. You could come with us if you like. If that's a yes, we'll see you at the camp.
Now, time to explore the coral highland, the flying waters once again, and we get to say hello to Noko.
Stop that, you big hairy brush face. Can't you see they're human?
Alright, that's the last time I'm going to reference that brain rot. Also, remember that line Noko just said, it'll be important later. Anyways, Lune nerds out over meeting a Gestral in person, and Noko is our introduction to both Gestrals and merchants. Gestrals are kinda like Napon from Xenoblade, seemingly comedic relief on the surface, but capable of amazing power when they actually try. Now, as for traveling merchants, I don't think that one needs much of an explanation if you've played an RPG. However, something that is noteworthy about Gestral merchants is a lot of them you can actually choose to fight in order to gain access to a rare item they hold in their inventory, usually something like a Pictos or another weapon, and it's always nice to have. And don't worry, this isn't you mugging the Gestrals, they're a war-hungry race, so they like to fight. Otherwise, once we start to set out for new areas, we come across some stronger enemies than before, but ultimately unremarkable, as they're not really gimmicks, just stronger foes. However, that Leviathan overhead might be a bit more concerning. Oh, and once again, this area is very, very pretty.
It's forging something. So they have intelligence.
The Forge Master Nevron may not be a boss fight, but he is one you really want to take out. However, that's not going to be easy as he's the first enemy to start with proper armor, meaning we need to hit him before we can actually begin to hurt him. Otherwise, he also has a slam attack requiring a jump to avoid, so glad to see that mechanic's actually getting some mileage. For slaying this Nevron, who's not a boss, just a strong enemy, you actually get the Krularam, a good weapon for Gustav that's also able to deal ice damage instead of regular physical damage. So it might be worth keeping in mind, because you can upgrade a lot of weapons in this game, so it could be useful. Progressing through the area, you may notice that the coral and life seem to be becoming less and less common, and you'll see what looks to be almost an ecological dead zone and this absolute giant. That monster is way above our weight class, so we should be very careful when progressing through this area, is what I would say, but if we actually continue off to a little side path instead of entering the big city area, we will see another giant, albeit much smaller than the one in the main hub area, but actually aggressive and will try to attack you. This colossal behemoth is the Burgeon, a foe larger than anything we've seen so far, putting the likes of a Vake to shame. And its health bar is huge as well, and you do very low damage to this boss. This is our first true optional boss of the game. Sure, there was the Chromatic Lancelier, but it has two variations of one attack. This guy introduces the Exhausted status effect, preventing AP gain, has a massive array of attacks, can remove a party member from battle like he's Midgar Zalam, has a crushing combo he can perform, hitting you many times, and is overall a tanky son of a bitch. Your best bet for this fight, other than leaving and coming back later, is to have Gustav focus on building up his overcharges to do massive burst damage and eventually stun him, as stunning him will free the devoured party member. While have Lune focus on burning him, as burn damage is significant, and when not burning, have her use things like lightning spells if she can. And have Mael inflict defenseless on Behemoth if she's busy not being devoured. Don't be mistaken, it can be a difficult boss battle and is a good deal stronger than anything we've encountered so far, but it's doable and man is it satisfying to pull off. I knew I was going to love this game when I walked into this battle and was actually able to scrape out a win thanks to making use of the game's battle system to my best efforts. Before continuing down the required path, there's actually another side path you can take that brings you to this Vermilion Garden sort of area that has 3 of these Forge Master dudes protecting a paint cage. This isn't a boss fight, but it might as well be one with how long it takes to win, but thankfully shooting them will take them down pretty well. And upon looking back at the footage, I realized you could have shot these little glowy spots placed semi-randomly on their body to do some big burst damage to them and debuff them. This is something I hadn't really picked up on being a mechanic until later in the game, the next major dungeon actually, where it's more obvious that's what you need to do. I thought this was reserved for those glowy cores and explosives that probably would have made this fight much easier in hindsight, but hey, I guess it did allow me to fully enjoy the battle theme here, which I guess I should mention, the battle music in Expedition 33 is basically a new track for every dungeon you're in, and in the Flying Waters case, it has 2 different battle themes, one for the vibrant areas and one for that ecological dead zone looking place. This little area is neat and definitely looks cool, but there's not much down here other than that paint cage. However, the orbs to shoot are a lot more hidden than before, and my dumb self kept trying to platform on the rims of the pots thinking I was missing something. I wasn't. Another weird side path in the ecological dead zone will take you to a mime. Yeah, this opponent is just as weird as before, and to be honest, I'm still not entirely sure what their deal is. They take significantly reduced damage until a certain condition is met, which I believe just means stunning them. They do have a unique battle theme, or at least mostly unique, which is notable at least. I don't know. Defeating the mimes will usually net you a cosmetic of some sort, or an achievement in the case of that first one, though admittedly I'm not the most fond of these fights because of how weird they are. Okay, maybe we're not so welcome here. The giant potato leaves, but something tells me we'll be seeing him again pretty soon. Ultimately, this abandoned building area has few enemies to fight, and once again looks pretty cool with the sun rays shining through, but you have to figure out how to reach where the giant potato monster went. The answer, of course, is the simplest one, which is more or less straight ahead, or in this case, up and then straight ahead. We're still in the early game, it's fine, the dungeons get a lot more interesting later on. There sure are a lot of flowers in this suspiciously boss arena shaped room. Yeah, I don't think I need to tell you what we're about to fight here, it doesn't take a genius to figure that one out.
Watch out!
You alright?
It only attacked when...
Coming!
I gotta be honest, I really am not the biggest fan of this battle. Goblu has 2 attacks you're going to see repeatedly. Punching you, and jumping 3 times with timings that aren't actually that hard, I'm just bad, and this was before I did practice runs of major bosses to learn them for recording. After losing roughly a quarter of his HP, he'll summon 4 flowers that open up with glowy orbs, meaning we're gonna need to shoot them sooner or later. From this point on, if the flowers are closed, he'll spend a turn trying to open them, then go for an attack. If you choose to leave the flowers alone, he'll absorb them, giving himself whatever beneficial bonuses they may have, then go for an attack. I learned after beating this boss that the blue flowers provide him shields, so it might be worth taking them out. Meanwhile, the red flowers provide attack buffs. So, if you feel confident in your dodging or parrying capabilities, feel free to ignore them. A better mechanic than I initially thought, but still not one I'm the most fond of since it's just sort of an Unga Bunga boss fight, and it doesn't even make use of the jumping counters, which is a mechanic the game just taught you like not even an hour ago, when fighting the Curator. I will give some praise though, the boss music is at least pretty awesome in my opinion. I don't think it hits the same as a Vake's boss theme, but it's still a good song and it feels like it'd be more at home in a futuristic racing game like F-Zero GX or Quantum Redshift. After the battle ends, since Lune stops Gustav from going in for the kill, Goblu decides to bail out because it really just wanted to protect the flowers more than anything else. It didn't really want to kill us, so it lives to see another day. I wonder if we'll be seeing it again in the future. Well, that was weird and concerning. Anyways, at your next camp segment we have more things open up, but I really like the cutscene that plays between Gustav and Mael here, so I'll let it play for a bit.
You know, that's the insidious thing about the Gommage. It's predictable, almost gentle. It makes Lumiere complacent and accepting, but the Gommage is equally violent than death. Death is just as final.
I've been having nightmares.
Yeah, me too. Look, if death approaches, I want you to run. No, promise me. Run. Especially if we meet the man from the beach. We can't face him. You see him, you run.
Only if you do the same.
Oh, I'm running as soon as I see a strand of white hair, trust me. You won't even see me, I'm running so fast.
Oh, please, you're an old man. I can outrun you any day.
Yeah, right. There was a time when 30 was young, you know?
Sure.
I really do like the character interactions in this game. They feel more like real interactions and not just backstory dumps like you get in some of these story-driven games that don't understand how people talk to one another. The other big shakeup here is the curator, true to his word, I guess, has now moved into your camp, and he will upgrade both your weapons as well as your expedition materials, which means more Lumina points for party members and buffs to your items like health and AP potions. You can also spend time at camp checking up on others if you want to, for optional bonus scenes. They're nice little cutscenes, honestly, that help characterize things.
For those who come after. Been a long time since I've seen you play.
A Gestral village.
Yeah. I still can't believe they exist. I mean, what other fairy tales are real?
This is ultimately a war of information. There's still too much we don't understand. Where the paintress comes from? Why she does what she does? Who is she? 70 years and we still barely know anything.
And the man on the beach. Yeah, too many unknowns. But if we take down the paintress, at least that gives future generations a chance to unravel the mystery.
You seem better than before.
Yeah. Holding it together. Shock's worn off. A bit. We can't bring anyone back. But I thought we can keep their spirit alive by pushing forward. And at least there's 3 of us now. The mission hasn't changed.
Tomorrow comes.
Tomorrow comes.
Tomorrow Comes is actually good life advice in general, to be honest. Running around the world map a bit, our next destination is the Gestral village in the Red Forest area, but I decided it was time for a bit of a wardrobe change to make ourselves look a bit different. You can also fight some enemies in the overworld to get items if you wish. And there's more exploration we can do. You can try to outsmart the game by going to Esquie's nest right now, but you won't get past the guard without the proper password, and we won't be getting that password for a little while, so we'll have to wait. We also have ourselves an overworld optional boss known as the Chromatic Brawler. This guy is just a brawler enemy with anger issues, now having combos that last entirely too long and a slam attack that requires multiple jumps, but may as well be an invitation to blast the ever-loving crap out of him. This and burns are how you'll deal most of the damage against this foe. He's not getting a bio from me, he's a chump. Other stuff in the overworld includes a mini game on the beach area that I didn't bother with, because I'll come back here later when I think more about it. The music here is nice though, and reminds me kind of the Trials of Mana remake. Now, another big thing is this tiny white Burgeon you can find that needs Burgeon meat to grow. There's two possible options in Act 1, either the guy we already killed, or an overworld battle much later in the game that has insanely high stats and is basically like an Act 1 super boss. Don't fight him, just kill the one back in the floating sea area. After giving him Burgeon meat, do the RPG tried and true leave the area and come back to see the little guy is not so little anymore. You can choose to fight and kill him if you want, but I ain't doing that right now. There's no real benefit in it, and there's actually going to be a big disadvantage if you try to kill the white Nevrons that are friendly to you. Anyways, that's pretty much all the side questing we can do at the moment, so let's go progress the plot. Now, heading into the Gestral village, you'll be surprised to realize this dungeon has no Nevrons whatsoever. Outside of maybe one? So, this little blue guy that we see running around here is known as a Patank. It moves comedically fast in the overworld, and if you get into battle with it, you'll be thrown into a gimmick fight with the limited number of turns to kill it before it flees, but the rewards you get for beating it are significant, while it will try to shield itself and do other things to keep itself alive. Think of it kind of like the Cactuars from Final Fantasy, but not as evasive. Or dangerous. Yet, anyways. Now, get ready to enter the village and... oh, that's a suspicious looking field of dead Nevrons.
Wow.
That's a lot of dead Nevrons.
Who did?
I don't see
I
any.
think they mean us.
They must be Gestrals. They're cute, but they're idiots.
Oh, fuck.
Hey, we're not Nevrons!
Here we have the robust Sakpatat. This guy isn't technically a boss fight, but I count him as close enough. The robust Sakpatat is a foe with a large shield to defend himself, as well as 3 shields of armor to stop any extra damage you may throw at him. When he gets to attack you, he has an interesting combo where he'll swipe at you, but he'll also throw an attack that must be jumped in mid-combo. This can be used as an opportunity to counter him, but it's kind of there to show you these won't just be finishing moves or one-off attacks, they will be things that are expected of the player to adapt and get used to. Something I actually didn't notice about this mini-boss is that his shoulder joint is a weak spot, meaning you can shoot him there, and with enough damage, the shoulder will eventually break off. Overall, a basic fight, but his clunky combo makes the battle stand out fairly well as a nice little challenge, and he has a pretty good little battle theme that doesn't play anywhere else as far as I know. The battle will end with him rushing the party to perform a kamikaze attack, so don't get hit by it or you're going to take a lot of damage. The Gestral Sanctuary is an interesting dungeon as there are no Nevrons present here outside of that Patank at the start in this area. Instead, you're going to be fighting Gestrals piloting their Sakpatats, using various weapons. These mechs can be strong and aggressive foes, but all of them have weak points that can be shot in order to cripple them significantly, reducing their threat level and their moveset. I didn't realize this until I'd basically beaten the dungeon, but it is good to know. If you see a glowy spot, shoot it. That's actually a general rule for this game. I will give you a fair warning though, the enemies will pretty much all self-destruct when defeated, so be ready for that. That's kind of the gimmick of this dungeon. But as far as the dungeon goes, there isn't any major gimmick outside of enemies blowing themselves up, but it does stand out for being the first non-linear dungeon where there's a lot of paths that will loop back in on themselves, and as Lune puts it, the dungeon is kind of confusing. But it's kind of just a case of keep moving and look for where the enemies are, as that means you probably haven't been there yet. Sort of like a classic FPS game mindset, but it translates to this turn-based RPG fairly well, I'd say. When you see the area that tells you obvious boss arena is obvious, you know you've made it to the end and the confusion is over.
They sound like kids.
We must be getting close to the village.
Kinda looks the same as all the others.
Hey, don't get cocky, Maya. Look at its equipment. That looks a lot more dangerous than the others. No, seriously.
The ultimate Sak Patat is the tale of two battles, and it all depends on whether or not you figure out how to break the limbs and choose this boss. The ultimate Sak Patat combines all the enemy types' movesets into one with its shields, melee, cannons, and a catapult. His main melee attack is a 3-hit combo that always ends with a jump attack, so I would recommend, unless you really need to charge up AP, just do the dodges instead of trying to parry everything, because you won't get the repost anyway since it ends with a jump attack. He can also raise his shield here whenever he starts taking the fight seriously in order to defend himself and guard his weak spot. He can slam his shield into the ground to inflict mark on party members with their cannon fire, and he can use the shield cannons, which are telegraphed by the Gestral yelling the word fire. He can also do a shield bash, which is your only way to actually counterattack him, as his 3-hit combo cannot be parry countered since it always ends with a jumping attack. And he's just an aggressive foe that can counter your attacks as well when his shield is up. But once you stun him, you may notice his shield arm is a weak spot, so fire on it and destroy his arm. With it broken, all his attacks are gone, and he only has 2 that he can do at this point. One being his melee combo from before, ending with a jump attack. Meanwhile, the other utilizes his catapult, where he fires out electric projectiles, and while they're single target, he fires off far more shots than the cannons did, so you do need to dodge for longer. Overall, it's actually a pretty complex and detailed boss fight, and the first one I'd say can be fairly tough. If you don't know the secret to beating him, that is. See, the ultimate Sak Patat has a weakness you can exploit. Every time he's hit by an attack while not guarding and taking the fight seriously, he'll flinch and his shoulder will be exposed for a few seconds. You can shoot it to break his shield instantly at the start of the fight. At this point, it'll say he'll unleash his full power, making him do more damage, but with only 2 attacks, being his combo and his catapult, it's much easier to deal with, and he was the boss fight I got the no damage achievement against. Though in hindsight, I should have waited for the next dungeon boss, as that one is much easier to no damage.
Chef.
Gorgra, lumma vina faitoru, kottara Gestral kamibori opinna. Gorgra femikola nisu, poki.
Alright, enough jerking you around. We're heading to Gestral Village and we're advancing the plot finally. Here in the village we see Gestrals are friendly individuals, but they're also kind of battle hobos. You can ask around town and learn about a mysterious stranger that's beat the likes of Deadeye Duncan and Girl on Two Fingers. Wait a second, I think I'm playing the wrong game. You can also choose to fight the merchant for his stuff, and he has plenty of clients. They're just dead. But to actually make progress, we need to go into the big obvious building and speak with Galgra, the chef of the village. Speak with her and she reveals that she knows a lot about the white-haired man and tells us our best bet would be to meet with Esquie, but we'll need the password to enter. She refuses to give it to us, but it's not because of her being an asshole or anything, it's actually because she's concerned for our safety rather than any other reason, which is a nice way to say the journey is dangerous and only a legendary warrior should go. So you know what that means? It's time for the anime tournament arc. You can run around town and speak to the Gestrals if you want, or you can admire the ones doing their push-ups in front of their chef. But to progress, we're going to need to speak with Limansal and enter the tournament. This is a series of 3 different duels you need to complete. You can select the party member you want, but you should try using all 3 of them just to get used to playing with them, because you'll have to use them sooner or later, so better to do it now. The first battle will put you against Bertrand Big Hands, whose hands honestly look to be only slightly larger than average. His parry timings are pretty easy to get down, so no real struggle here. Our next battle is against Dominique Giant Feet, and okay, I guess, kind of? She is very tall to be sure, and her timings throw me off because I cannot parry her to save my life, but she's still not a fight I consider super difficult thankfully because she doesn't do a lot of damage. Our third battle pits us against Matthew the Colossus, who shakes things up by pulling out a knife. Questionable combat ethics to be sure, but I guess we are using a sword of our own so I can't criticize too harshly. And with the 3 Gestral gladiators defeated, we gain the right to take on the new champion, the Stranger. Just like the other tournament battles, the Stranger is going to be a duel, so pick your strongest character and get ready for a fight. Future Christian here cutting in real quick, I'd like to mention to new players they should probably face this boss with Mael. Depending on which character you use, you get a special weapon for that character that wins the final round. And while they can all be obtained later, Mael's special weapon can only be obtained after defeating a super boss. And that special weapon is the best way to do a low level run of the super boss and not have a post game build. So you kinda got a bit of a catch-22 there. Albeit, it's a super boss with air quotes, but it's still not something to be trifled with. So I would recommend probably beat this fight with Mael so you can get the good weapon.
Wait, that's...
Ciel?
What? How? You guys? You're alive! I thought I was the only one left. I knew you were resourceful.
How did you get here?
They're expecting a bit of a show. Shall we?
And now we are battling Ciel, the lady that wanted to make sure she was intoxicated before riding the boat. This battle is thankfully very short, but she uses her cards to perform both light and dark attribute attacks, and if she performs both attacks in succession, she will enter a Twilight mode, which makes her do more damage for her next attacks, as well as letting her mark characters to do more damage with her next attacks anyways. Thankfully, her health bar is so low that these mechanics basically don't mean a single thing because she'll be dead in under a minute. Like, I'm not even kidding, my footage for this boss fight doesn't even last a full minute. You know, I guess while we're waiting for the attack animations to finish, I could mention how her model looks a little bit derpy in this scene, because for some reason there's like no facial expressions here. It's a different model from what she uses in Overworld and that sort of stuff. That's about it. Easy fight.
Well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, it really just felt like beating old people.
So it wasn't so bad.
Am I one of those old people?
One day, I hope. Hey, how'd you end up here?
Oh, after the beach, I ended up in an odd yellow forest, not too far from here. Had to dodge a few Nevrons, but luckily I met a Gestral who guided me here. What about you?
Well, I woke up next to a waterfall and...
We can talk later. Let's get back to Golgra.
No time to lose.
And now Ciel joins the party as our 4th member, and she has her own mini combo system using her cards, making use of the light and dark attributes as she's at her strongest when in the Twilight Zone. Her stats are very low at the moment, but remember, you have a ton of unassigned skill points on her, so, you know, fix that problem. Also, I didn't realize it until watching the cutscene back, but you actually go to that yellow forest that she ended up in, and I don't know why I just didn't piece that together. You can actually go there pretty soon after this point in the story, but I didn't until, like, well into Act 2, so we're not going to worry about that for now. With Ciel in the party, Golgra now lets us know that the password to make it into Esquie's lair is to yell, "Get out of my way," at the top of your lungs. Back at the campfire scenes, I kinda want to talk about Ciel a bit. She is one of my favorite characters, but at least initially, to me, she felt like the odd one out compared to the other party members, though I don't mean that in a bad way. See, in a lot of RPGs, both Western and Japanese, there always seems to be that one party member that ends up sticking with you all throughout the game, not because of some grand destiny, but because they just happen to be lucky or skilled enough to survive the big falling out. The biggest example that comes to mind for me is Rap from Grandia 1. He's literally just a dude that tagged along with Justin and Fina for a mission, and then he just kept tagging along when all the other party members kept leaving the party for good. He stuck with you, and before you know it, he's there with 3 other characters fighting an Eldritch God. Ciel isn't quite that dramatic. She is an expedition member and has a reason to be here, but her interactions with Gustav in the prologue just made her seem like another character like Alan, Tristan, Catherine, or Lucien, none of which survived the beaches of Normandy. Maëlle was pretty clearly going to survive given her prominence in the prologue and the fact that Sophie already filled the role of character close to protagonist that dies in the early hours, and Lune had more of a lore dumpy interaction, plus with her showing up early on, I figured she'd fill the one that survived shtick well enough. But at the same time, I think Ciel's inclusion works because it fits the idea that any of those characters we interacted with in the prologue could have lived or died. She just happened to be lucky and, more importantly, skilled enough to stay alive. But we have another major cutscene coming up, so I'm gonna let that play.
I can't believe it. We're gonna meet the Esquie.
The Gestrals and Esquie. The tales are true.
Do you feel something? White hair. Who are you?
Alicia, I told you to stay home. It's not good for you to see this. Yes, I understand. It's her fault, and she doesn't even know it. But you can't be here.
What are you talking about? What's my fault? What is this?
You should never have come. You're only going to make things worse for everyone. Now take your friends and go home. Let them spend their final year in peace. This is your only warning.
I just wanted to let that bit play out. The old man from the beach isn't just a one-off appearance until late in the game. We're seeing him here for a second time in the first few hours, and his presence caused the game's aspect ratio to change. He's so powerful he alters the game's settings. Oh, we are fucked. Now it's off to Esquie's lair. This area is basically just little puzzles with pretty much nothing in the way of random enemies to battle. In fact, there's pretty much no enemies here at all. That is, with the exception of another mime we can fight, and yeah, these guys are weird, but I have to ask, are mimes connected to Gestrals in some way? They have bizarre powers similar to some Gestrals, and they have these mechanical wooden bodies similar to Gestrals, but seem to lack free will like the Gestrals do. I don't know, just an odd thing to ponder. I also haven't beaten the game yet, so who knows, maybe it got answered somewhere. We finally get to meet with Esquie, and I really like his design. I don't know if it's based off some sort of figure from French history or mythos, but it feels very reminiscent of your weird companion characters from Super Nintendo and PS1 era JRPGs, which, as far as I can tell, was 100% intentional when making this guy. And I think his voice actor does a good job as well, just like the rest of the main cast.
Okay.
Let me guess. Francois is located deep in Nevron-infested territory, right?
Oh no. He's right next door. Over there.
Oh,
Francois's my neighbor.
Honestly, that line got a genuine laugh out of me when I first played this game. I kind of wish I was mic'd there. Actually, that's something else I have to give credit for. While this game takes its plot more seriously than something like a Mario and Luigi game, the humor is still right up my alley, on point, and has some genuinely funny moments.
Who dares enter my lair? You can't just walk into someone's home without knocking. That is incredibly rude.
Is that... Are you Francois? He's just a talking rock.
Wait, I thought Florrie was the rock.
A rock? I am not a rock. Do you have rocks for eyes? You certainly have rocks for brains. I am clearly a turtle. Esquie! Stop sending hooligans over here!
Stop being a meanie. They're nice humans.
Then keep them on your side of the caves! Now get off my lawn!
It's okay. We'll leave. We're just here for Florrie.
So, not only are you intruding, you're here to steal? Oh my word! Humans! Well, over my dead body! Rah!
Francois may be a boss, but he's presented as a joke battle, and that's because he kind of is. He has 5 shields to start the battle, but his health is fairly low, sitting at only a couple thousand, I believe about 7,500. And really, he only has one attack he'll use, the strongest ice attack ever. If it hits you, you pretty much die instantly because it's going to be doing around 2,000 damage when your health is probably not going to be breaking 999 yet. But if you can do something as basic as count to 3, you will easily dodge this attack. This is the boss I would recommend you go for to do the no damage achievement instead of something insane like Ultimate Sock Patat or Duelist. You could probably pull it off if you were skilled, but, you know, I'm not Ong boss, so that ain't happening.
Trouble for a tiny rock.
Take it and never come back.
Francois, you got smashed.
But know that I will never stop chasing you.
But you can't move.
Scram!
With the rock given back, we learn it's a dud, and Esquie can't swim us across the ocean yet, but knows of the Stonewave Cliffs, which would probably have the rock he's looking for, and offers to help us get there. So now we have ourselves a mount that can run across jagged rock obstacles, opening up the world a bit for more side questing if you wish. There are some areas like the Yellow Harvest which are actually a completely optional dungeon, and I didn't even realize you could explore the place until much later in the game, so we're gonna pretend it doesn't exist for right now. Then there's the Red Woods, which has a danger tag thrown over it, which normally means a very powerful foe is there, but I personally feel that at least as of writing the script, I'm somewhere a little over halfway point in the game, maybe a bit further. Out of all the danger areas I've been to, none of them have really deserved this tag outside of one specific place, the beach where the game began, but I'll get into that nightmare hellscape later on. The other areas, they're supposedly having very strong foes, but there's either nothing to fight there, or the fight is actually pretty manageable, you just gotta be a little on point with your parrying. You can also choose to kill most white Nevrons in the game if you wish to do so, or you have no desire to bother with their questlines. I cast save and reload. Okay, in all reality, you want to spare the white Nevrons, at least for now, as they are part of a long-running questline that will go throughout the whole game. There are some you'll battle regardless, but never attack them of your own volition, as that's what leads to them being killed, while some simply want to duel you or play a disguised minigame with them. However, some reports I've seen have... well, it says that there is a little bit of wiggle room if you've only killed 1 or maybe 2 Nevrons. Just don't be a murder hobo or needlessly cruel and you should be okay. Exploring the world a bit, I tried to take on the giant Burgeon in the overworld, but I got my ass kicked. As far as I can tell, this guy is more or less the strongest boss you can face in Act 1 of the game, but I'll have to come back at a later time because Midgar's Alarm does not screw around. You can try to enter the Stonewave Cliffs area, but the game will not let you, as we have to go to camp first. If this happens in game, this means that there's a mandatory camp cutscene you need to see first before the game will progress the story.
I see why you like throwing rocks.
You've been quiet since you saw those people.
It felt like they knew me. Like, actually knew me. I don't understand what's happening. And I feel like I never understood. Like, I'm always missing something that everyone else just gets. In Lumiere, life never made sense, and I never fit, and now out here, when it was just starting to maybe feel good, then this happens, and...
Yeah. I hate it too. Things we don't understand. They just make us feel small and powerless. But it helps, you know, to focus on the things I do understand, on the people I care about and who care about me. And, you know, now I feel a little less lost, because at least we're lost together. What? What? Stop it. Too cheesy? No. Well, if it makes you feel better, I was even more lost when I was 16.
I heard that was because you were only thinking about girls.
Yep, but guess what? The girls weren't thinking about me at all.
I believe that.
Yeah. You can talk to me, you know. We're family. Well, that's what the paperwork says, at least.
Well, the paperwork probably says we're dead too, so...
Yeah, probably. Ooh, nice one.
I know.
I told you, don't get cocky. It was... okay.
You taught me great. Nah.
Apologies if you're not really a fan of me letting these scenes play out, but I don't think me talking over them can really do them justice. I really like the character interactions in this game. The dialogue feels like real people talking to one another, which is something a lot of RPGs of both Western and Eastern tend to struggle with. And when it is a game like, say, the Trails series that does understand how human interactions work, it's usually relegated to text boxes only. Now, rest up and prepare to go to the Stonewave Cliffs, but I will give a big spoiler warning here now. When you defeat the main boss of the Stonewave Cliffs dungeon, Act 1 will come to a close and the world will permanently change. So I recommend resolving anything you may want to do now, preferably before you even go into the dungeon, and see all the party member interactions you can see. I basically done everything other than max out the fountain, which requires an absurd amount of money, and defeat the second Burgeon. And also the Yellow Woods dungeon, but you know what, I didn't realize that until much later. Basically what I'm saying is major spoiler warning beyond this point. If what you've seen so far looks cool and the story seems interesting, I highly recommend you stop watching this video right now and go play the game. If you don't mind as much, well then, let's continue on, shall we?
I envy them. Those who can't see. Those who know not that they are not those who live, blithe and free, sins forgotten, and thus absolved, a fresh dawn in their playground, while we live in shadows, swimming in ink. We are but a fragile dream, a singular weed, resisting, ever resisting, that iron dirt, that eternal law. Those who can't see, those who know not, that they are not. Do you know? We are fellows. Those who know not, that they are not.
As we enter the Stonewave Cliffs, we're greeted by a couple of interesting sights, such as a destroyed Ferris wheel. This was actually a vehicle used by one of the previous expeditions to transport them, so it's not just a Ferris wheel, it's also supposed to be mobile, which is very creative of an idea, but also seems very nauseating. We also get to see how powerful Esquie truly is, with him going and easily one-shotting a Burgeon that is larger than any other that we've seen in the world so far. Outside of, I guess, maybe that one in the overworld, but, well, either way, he still one-shots a Burgeon. Now, for real, welcome to the Stonewave Cliffs, the final area of... what the fuck? The final area of Act 1, and a mountain of hexagons, so I guess we're playing a Halo Infinite map. This area has a few different enemies, but basically all of them utilize the gimmick of adding shields in some way or another. Of these, I think the Great Sword Cultists are very cool opponents that basically make use of Vile Blood Arts and attack you in ways that I feel like could work as a boss fight if they really wanted to modify them to be one. Meanwhile, other enemies I'm honestly less fond of. The Hexkas are just super tanky for no reason, the Roshers just smack you with pillars, and the Wraiths have floating orb weak points, but if they get shot, they supply 2 shields to the enemy teammates, which makes them very annoying to deal with. The most notable thing of the cliffs, at least in the first half, is this little farming village area that not only holds an awful Hexka, but also holds a paint cage as well as another Patank that normally this evasive foe would be near impossible for me to beat, but I somehow managed to just barely beat him right before he fled. So, you know what? We take those wins. I will say, even though I don't like the enemies as much, I actually do like the dungeon layout. It's a lot more intricately designed than any of the other dungeons in Act 1. Also, fun fact, I didn't realize this was a white Neveron you could interact with because I didn't see that prompt until looking back through the footage, but yeah, you totally can. The outer areas of Stonewave Cliffs sure are something, but you'll know you've truly made progress once you drop down into this dark cave looking area. Now that we're in the dark cave area part of the cliffs, this area actually stands out to me more due to the lack of lighting that raises suspense. It has a bit better level design in general, and there's actually a pretty cool secret area around here, but before we can go there, there's enemies that need killing, and unfortunately this is where I realized the Hexkas are very annoying to deal with, so you should probably just run past them if you can. There's actually this little platforming segment you can attempt to try and get an item. I sucked at it, but looking back, the smarter solution would probably be to just dash into the pillars, because that way your character is more likely to grab onto the ledge. When wandering around, you might see what looks like a line you can take down, but be mindful of that crystal on the side. Why exactly? Because it's an enemy Rosher, but more importantly, it's counted as a boss fight. For some weird reason. I honestly have no idea why he has a boss health bar, but mainly because beating him gives a quest item. But if you go past where the Rosher boss fight was and you take the line down, you will see what looks like a door in the background and this giant statue looking dude here. Get into a fight with him, and we are fighting an opponent known as the Golden Chevalier, and he is surprisingly not an optional boss fight, but he's hard enough to be one, with him being able to attack the entire party with both ice and fire elemental attacks. He killed me more than a few times. That is when I realized the best way to get parry timings is actually to listen for the whirring noise enemies make, instead of trying to identify every single animation. It's not a perfect solution, but it does help, especially for the upcoming major boss, who's going to have very obscured visibility. And after defeating the Golden Chevalier, we can actually go through this very familiar looking door. And when the game finishes loading, we find ourselves back in the manor from the, well, not the start of the game, but from fairly early on in the game. We're in one of the locked rooms that we couldn't reach earlier. And there's usually going to be little goodies in here and sometimes lore fragments whenever you find a door that connects back to the manor. As I said, it's important. So, we're about to reach the very end of Act 1, so let's do a quick checklist of important stuff. 1. Recruit Mael and CL. 2. No damage a boss for the achievement. It's not going to get any easier. 3. Fight all the merchants we've encountered so far. 4. Defeat a Burgeon for its meat and give it to the young Burgeon. 5. Pronounce Chevalier as Chevalier to piss at least one person off. 6. Kill the mines in the floating sea and Esquie's domain locations. 7. Let people know about Mael's special weapon you get for having her win the tournament. 8. Acknowledge that you missed the Golden Woods area and its entire optional dungeon like a dumbass. Alright, I think we're good to go.
Let's get rid of him. The rock should be nearby.
Well, this boss is certainly creepy looking. Yeah, some of the Neverons are cool looking, but some of them are really just a bit more conventional, while this guy feels more in line with that thing we saw in the opening. Anyways, keep your ears peeled for this fight, because this boss likes to make a lot of noise when he attacks, and that is your best way to parry his moves. Now, the Lamp Master has a gimmick to his fight where he can attack you every turn, but his 4 lamps can also be lit. If the lamps are lit at the end of the turn, then they will attack you with light damage, while the Lamp Master himself tries to utilize dark damage. You can shoot out the lamps to shut down this move, as well as deal fire damage to the boss to prevent him from progressing that move throughout the fight, and that just means less attacks coming your way. I would once again recommend listening out for this fight, because this boss is kind of hard to see what attack he's going to do with his very chaotic design and, well, just the darkness all around you, but his visual cues may not be good, his audio cues are very on point, so anytime you hear what sounds like a screech, just go to parry. That's what you need to do. Thankfully, I don't think this fight is too difficult, as his health is on the lower end compared to other opponents we faced up to this point, and if you can beat the enemies here, you should be more than a match for the Lamp Master.
Easier than expected.
Hey, don't jinx us. No need to invite misfortune.
I don't see any stones.
What's happening?
Misfortune.
Just kidding. This is the first boss in the game to have 2 health bars instead of just 1. He's going to begin every turn with one of his attacks, be it a combo, a light beam, or something else, what have you. But then he'll always perform a ritual where he'll unleash a massive sort of light that can be parried but does insane damage to the player if it hits, just about one-shotting them. However, he also has attacks like the Vast Ball of Light that can be jumped, but in order to stop the ritual, what you're going to need to do is see the lamps that flash and shoot them in the order they flash. Interestingly, if you shoot the right lamp, it doesn't consume AP, which is probably good game design. Another thing this boss does is it will inflict the status effect Dizzy on the character. Most of the time, Dizzy is a worthless status effect. It doesn't affect their normal attacks at all, but it makes free aiming a lot harder to do as your camera will now wobble around. There's an honest argument to be made for not doing the ritual, as you can parry the Sword of Light and do massive damage to him, but it's kind of a risk versus reward thing, and I think it's fun to actually engage with a boss gimmick. The coolest part of the fight though for me is the flying combo where the boss goes crazy with his sword and will even fly into the background before charging in to take you out. I think it looks really cool.
Is it really dead?
Looks like it.
Is this it?
Oh, Flory. All right. Ready to sail like a snail. Just jump, mes amis. It's not that high.
We can finally cross the sea. You don't happen to have some wine stashed away, do you?
Wine?
Hey, you can do this.
I hate water.
She doesn't seem that far now, does she?
Yeah. Wanna throw one more rock?
The others are waiting, but...
You might reach her.
Okay. Ooh, what about that one?
Does it really matter?
Well, you know, like I always say, it's not about the rock. It's more about...
Gustav.
Run.
Please run.
Why? Why are you doing this?
After that attack, Gustav is at 1 HP. But hey, not to worry, we can always attack the boss to steal his health, and he's not taking any damage. Oh no. And to make things worse, the Lampmaster still isn't dead. Maybe that thing was tougher than I gave him credit for. That means that the only Nevron we've actually really beaten so far, at least Big Nevron, is a Vake. Well, we blasted him into a pillar, so he should be immobilized for a bit, right?
those who come after.
Well, shit.
No. You promised!
Yeah, the white-haired man isn't just a boogeyman, he's straight up a monster, and Gustav is dead. Like, deader than the F-Zero franchise. All hope seems lost for Mael as well, but thankfully in the nick of time, we get saved by a stranger.
You've lived more than a lifetime. It's time to let her go.
A lifetime. A lifetime with my family torn apart. No. I want my family back.
It's not your family. But she is.
You would use her.
She chose to come. I didn't make the rules between you two. Hey. You alright? It's okay. I'll handle things here. Get back to your friends. Go.
So that's it. You've set us down this path. But are you ready for the consequences?
She'll never paint again.
Yeah, I was more than a little surprised, but Gustav is dead and gone. The protagonist and our leader of the group doesn't even make it to Act 2, and the reactions of the characters afterwards are pretty effective storytelling on that part. Our heroes are at their lowest point, each dealing with grief differently. Mael is in shock and crying her eyes out. Esquie chooses to comfort her because he's used to death. Lune tries to rationalize everything and figure out what to do next. And Ciel, who's already lost many people, knows the best thing to do, in their situation at least, is to rest and figure out what to do tomorrow. But man, our team is really in a slump. I think we're gonna need some serious help if we want to manage to get back on our feet. Oh, hi, help!
This seemed important. If you want to reach the monolith, the best path is through the quarry up north.
Who are you? And where did you get that expedition uniform?
Strange way to say thank you. Sorry I couldn't save your friend. I'm wearing an expedition uniform because I, too, am an expeditioner.
What? What do you mean you're an...
I've never seen you before.
First expedition. Expedition 0.
Expedition 0? But how are you alive and not...
Old? I don't know exactly, but some of us stopped aging and were not affected by the Gamage.
Some of you? Like the man on the cliff?
Anwar, our commander.
Why? Why did he massacre our team?
How could he turn on his own people?
He believes his immortality is a gift from the Paintress. Killing her would kill him too, and he enjoys living forever.
And you don't?
Burying everyone you know while you live on can weigh you down a bit. I couldn't help your friend, but perhaps I can help you.
You want to join us?
If you don't mind the company. Yes.
So, if I want to kill Renoir, I have to kill the paintress first. What's your name?
Versa.
Dim, dam, dadilam, vacarme s'en va dans l'oubli éternel. Et Gustave, dom guardiam, dilim, dididididam, lutes seradodidam, seram. Dim, dim, da da da, dim, da da da, dim, da di dam. Dim dim da 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 dim dim da 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 dim da di dam. Dans là-haut sera ravi, les toits à ce noir griffera. Clair, obscur, trouble de rature, trouvera effet. Clair, obscur, bordé aux peintures, trouvera sans elle. Clair, obscur, trouble de rature, trouvera effet. Clair, obscur, bordé aux peintures, trouvera sans elle.